Did you know how to make a multiple wire cable assembly? Let's take a look. Okay, what we've got here is a subassembly that will be inserted into another assembly at some future point, and we're trying to make cables or wires to go in between all the connectors and the switches and through the zip ties. What we're going to do is we're going to insert a new component, and this new component is going to be the actual wires themselves. SolidWorks is asking for the front plane of the new part, and I'm just going to pick the front plane of the assembly, and it automatically opens up a 2D sketch, but that's not what we want, so I'm going to get out of that sketch. And then I'm going to open up a 3D sketch. And in that 3D sketch, we're going to put some splines. Okay, so the pink sketches were part of the original switch. The orange sketches are part of the zip ties, and the red dots right there, the point entities, those are sketches in the connector. So I'm going to make the path of our new wires go between all those points. So if we zoom in, I'm just going to pick these points in 3D space, and we're making in-context references to all those other sketches, and we're just going to take our spline and feed it through all these points. Okay, there's our first path. Now let's make another path out of another spline. We'll just make two here. One there. This one's perpendicular to that, basically. Now we're going to go through the zip tie. Get through all the zip ties. And then we're going to go to a point on the connector. Okay, so there's our two paths for our sweep. Now we need to make the profiles of the sweep. I've got this pink sketch here on the switch, and I'm just going to open up a 2D sketch in the part we're editing right now, and I'm going to convert those two circles into our profiles. We're putting them both in the same sketch. Okay, so there's our two profiles we're going to use to make our wire. Now, it's important at this point that we actually hide the pink sketch because it's real easy to get confused. These are the ones in the new part we're working on right now, and we don't want to pick the other ones that were in the sketch. We want to make sure we use these profiles for the sweep. Now I'm going to go back. We're still editing the new part. I'm going to do a sweep. I'm going to use the selection manager to pick a closed shape for our first sweep. And then I'm going to pick an open shape for the path. And there's our first sweep. I'm going to do the same thing again, but see, the sketches were consumed, so I got to come down here, and I've got to open that up and show those two sketches again to see them again. So there they are, they're back. Now I can use them for another sweep feature in our new part. Closed shape, this contour right there. Open shape, this path right here. Now we can say okay, and there's our second. Now, wanted to be careful. Let's go back and edit this feature. I want to make sure. No, didn't want to edit the part, Phil. I wanted to edit that feature right there. I want to make sure I have merge result turned off because we actually want two different bodies. Because one of the things we can do with those two different bodies, you can look here and see those bodies, we can actually change the color of those. So we can change one to maybe red and one to green. And we can change those colors or appearances to whatever we want. And since they're individual bodies, also SolidWorks doesn't try to merge those. If these are just barely skimming each other, SolidWorks may have a little trouble trying to merge them because they're barely touching, then they're not touching, then they're barely touching again. And that really causes some CPU messes and some confusion with SolidWorks. So it's better to just make them separate bodies. And then if they overlap just a little bit, it's not really going to hurt anything. And now we can get out of editing that part, which was the brand new wires. And now we can take these connectors and these zip ties and put them pretty much wherever we want within reason, and then rebuild our assembly, and we see our wires will follow along. So that's one way to put wires or tubing or hoses or whatever you need through an assembly, and just quickly do it by referencing the other components that are at the ends of the wires or at the middle of the wires.